Members were formed a quorum, and it's also the appointed time for our meeting, so may I call the meeting to order. Please invite the representatives from the administration and also the deputations to join us. This meeting was originally scheduled for the 22nd, or rather is a continuation of the public hearing held on the 22nd of March. So this is a public hearing on a number of environmental infrastructure projects, namely extension of the Sand landfill, the Nant landfill, the Went landfill, and also construction of the integrated waste management facilities, phase 1. We met 146 deputations on the 22nd, and today we have 20 or so deputations or individuals coming to express their views. So first I'll talk about how we're going to proceed. Mr. Gary Fong has a motion, and Mr. Wu Chi-wai has proposed an amendment to it. The wording of the amendment has been tabled. So we're going to extend our meeting to 1 p.m. It was meant to finish by 10:45, and if members have other amendments to the motion, please submit it to the chair by 12:45. That is 15 minutes prior to the end of the meeting. And if you need some discussion of the amendments, please make sure that you hand in the amendment earlier, because we won't have too much time for discussion and voting. And if we want a division, then we need 10 minutes. So there won't be 5 minutes left for discussion. So you have to inform us well beforehand. Otherwise, I won't have enough time for you to speak before we proceed to vote. So if you have any amendments to make, please notify me by 12:45. If you can do it earlier, all the best. Many deputations or individuals that have indicated to come have yet to arrive. We've got only 19 present, so half-half. I have to let our guests know some procedural matters. All right, first I'll tell you how I'm going to do it. I don't want to delay the meeting just because a few have yet to arrive.
First, that there is an earpiece on every booth, and please tune to the channel 0 for floor sound, channel 1 for Cantonese, and channel 2 for English. Okay, so after everybody listening to the simultaneous interpretation, then I'll start to speak on the rules and proceedings for the coming 2 hours.
Members colleagues, can you please check whether our guests have worn their EPs? The English-speaking guests in particular.
Simultaneous interpretation. Okay. 歡迎大家.
Welcome to the meeting to express your views. Each deputation or individual will have up to 3 minutes to speak, and your remarks and submissions do not enjoy any protection of the Electoral Powers and Privileges Ordinance. And please note that Members of the public attending this meeting or those in the public gallery have to note the various security measures contained in our guidance notes, which have been sent to you by the Secretariat when they give you a notice of the meeting. And we've also got a copy in the room. Members of the public in the public gallery can also obtain a copy from our staff. So if you need simultaneous interpretation for Cantonese, please tune into Channel 1. For English, please tune into Channel 2. And for the floor, Channel 0. So we have a timer here. You have up to 3 minutes to speak. When your time is up, there will be a warning to remind you. So please stop speaking. Because if you speak beyond your time limit, that means there will be less time left for other deputations. 19 members of the public have yet to arrive. Now, if by the time they arrive, the turn is not yet up, then of course they will speak according to the regional speaking order. If not, they have to wait until everyone has spoken. But then I have to repeat the procedures again. I apologize, but all right, sorry. Present from the administration, well, we know each other too well. We have Mr. Wong Kam Sing, Secretary for the Environment, and Ms. Christino, Under Secretary, Mr. Chang Wei-Kei, Deputy Director of Environmental Protection, Dr. Alan Chen, Assistant Director, and Mr. Wei Kwong, Assistant Director of Environmental Protection. Mr. Hong Hin Wei, you go first. Thank you. Thank you. I'm the PR officer from Changchao Road Committee. We are very against the idea of building the incinerator at Sheung, because I think everyone has the duty to reduce municipal solid waste, but if we're going to do it in Shakuchao, that will waste a lot of taxpayers' money. The Environment Bureau identifying outlying islands for the construction of the incinerator, telling us that this is most environmentally friendly and is most up-to-date and modern. Well, if the technology is so mature, why don't you have one incinerator in each district? And then we also have recycling, reuse, and also levy. And then we can also have a green award for all districts. I'm sure in 5 years' time we will have MSW much reduced, and we will even do better than Singapore. We should not spend $18 billion on a super incinerator. We should have one in each of our 18 districts because it is safe, easy to operate, and will bring economic benefits to all districts. Well, when one has broken down, we have fallback in other districts. So please withdraw the proposal to build an incinerator on Shakuchao for the sake of our future generations. Thank you. From Hong Kong Institution of Engineers, Mr. Yip Tak Yan. Good morning, Chairman and members. We're in support of the extension of the 3 landfills and construction of the integrated waste management facilities. Regarding extension of the 3 landfills, we have the following to say. Landfilling should be the last resort for waste management. After various measures to reduce waste has been introduced, including a Food Waste Hong Kong campaign, we should review the need for regular extension of the landfills. If these measures are successful, then you should scale down the scope of extension of our landfills. And secondly, we know that the administration has taken a number of measures to mitigate the problems associated with extension of the landfills. An independent working group should be set up to monitor the effectiveness of these measures so that the government can proceed according to its plan and also the cost effectiveness of this plan. Now we believe that the moving grade incineration technology is mature and sophisticated, and is also cost effectiveness. Compared with other identified sites, Shakuchao is more remote, and therefore building the incineration on an artificial island near Shakuchao is an appropriate choice. We hope that a special display panel can be set up near Shakuchao, and there should be real-time data disseminated to the public. And on Changchao and nearby areas, there should be air quality monitoring stations to monitor the general air quality, and the public should be able to have access to real-time emission data through the internet. And according to the experience of other industries, of other jurisdictions, emissions will increase with incineration, and therefore the government should monitor the situation and switch on and off the incinerator when necessary. The administration should liaise with the communities that will be affected, and the revenue should be spent on sponsoring green activities for the sake of the community. And the government should also see how fly ash and also other residual can be turned to useful materials. You should check the feasibility so as to lower the reliance on landfill and also reduce the reliance on natural materials.
Ms. Sheung from Conservation Society, the Green Council, we have put forth a paper to LegCo. Today I will highlight some of the key points. Our views on the landfill extensions and incinerators. Our view is that we should look at reduction of waste and recycling before thinking about landfills and incineration. We think that landfills and incineration are ultimate solutions. But before we look at this ultimate solution, we should first exhaust other solutions, and it should be the last resort when we have exhausted all possible methods. Incineration has adverse impacts on the society. We support the Environment Bureau's measures in recent years, for example, producer responsibility scheme, the green stations, the promotion of reduction at waste, recycling, etc. Since time is limited, I'd like to state our views on the issue. We agree with the construction of incinerators, but we don't agree with the current choice of venue and as well as scope. We think the scope is way too big. We should scale down a little bit. And incinerators should be an interim measure, but there must be a schedule for the reduction for closing down the incinerators. We cannot overuse incinerators, and the landfill extensions are not an excuse to stop working on recycling and waste reduction. Landfill extensions and incinerators should be done on a need-to-do basis and should be implemented in phase. The choice of venue for the incinerator is not very wise. The current choice of venue is Shakuchao, which is ecologically very sensitive. The government has come up with a number of measures like reduction of electricity fee, but it has not garnered support from the public, from people power. Mr. Ng Ming. We think the government's current proposals are inappropriate and they have got their priorities wrong. The government should look at the sorting of refuse first. In the last 10 years, Hong Kong people has been disposing over 1 kilogram of trash per day. If this situation continues, no matter how many incinerators or landfills we have, the problem won't go away. We think if we don't give the public more support to perform sorting, rubbish sorting, they wouldn't be encouraged to do so, and the situation of trash will only get worse. We think the government should apply new thinking and establish priorities for different measures in order to get to the root of the problem. And for the West New Territories landfill, the residents of Long Kwu Tan has endured a torrid time for years. People Power had organized a petition and we received hundreds of signatures. The government should properly relocate these residents in order to safeguard their health. The Canadian Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Leung Wing Chun. On behalf of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, the issue of trash management is imminent in Hong Kong. We urge the government to solve this problem as soon as possible. I want to be faithful to the views of our directors, so I will speak in English.
Of the international business community feels that the future of waste management in Hong Kong should be treated as our top priority so as to prevent it from potentially becoming a failure. We also believe that Hong Kong needs now to move forward proactively and try out different options for waste charging. The real practical experience is what will drive change. We look forward as a chamber to work constructively with the CSD, the government and other stakeholders in resolving our waste challenges now and in the future. And therefore the chamber urge the government to take immediate action. Municipal solid waste charging is no barrier for business and absolutely fundamental. Waste management is a pressing issue in Hong Kong, and we urge the government to establish a more detailed and strategic action plan with implementation timelines. Our business community needs assurances that the waste reduction targets set in the blueprint for sustainable use of resources 2013 to 2022 will indeed be met. And in addition, we believe that the government must have a holistic plan to tackle the issue. The Canadian Chamber supports the 3 landfill extension projects for the following reasons. The 3 planned landfill extensions will add around 100 million cubic meters of landfill capacity. The government will implement a number of enhancement measures, including the establishment of the restored landfill revitalization funding scheme, and so on. If the government fails to achieve approval to fund landfill extensions, Hong Kong will likely have no choice but to either export waste, which is an expensive proposition with a raft of challenges in finding a jurisdiction that would accept the waste, or the alternative of facing the reality of a complete breakdown of the current waste management system in Hong Kong. We felt that a clean environment is essential to the sustainable development of Hong Kong, and therefore a clear and holistic waste reduction plan can enhance the city's image and attract investment. The Canadian Chamber supports the government to step up efforts on waste management and is committed to work together with the society to achieve that.
Thank you, Mr. Leung. 跟住係西貢區議會周延明議員辦事處嚴葵峰先生。
係，多謝主席。咁樣我哋辦事處咧就聯同安寧花園業主立案法團啦、南豐廣場業委會同埋
of Awning Corporation and the OCs of other residential blocks, we oppose to the SENT landfill extension. Even though the government promised that this landfill will be used for construction waste only, seemingly the odor problem will go away. However, the issue of air quality has not been solved. The refuse vehicles often don't cover themselves probably, which leads to a lot of dust and air pollution. And for Whampoa Road outside Lowhurst Park, it's cleaned 6 to 8 times per day, but after each round of cleaning, no improvement can be seen. We can see a lot of flowers on the road have wilted, so you can see how serious the problem of dust is. So I also want you to know the traffic problems because of the landfills, and we are not just talking about the refuse or other heavy vehicles. And apart from traffic congestion, there is the problem of illegal parking. For the Hang Ho area, during lunch times, there are a lot of illegally parked engineering vehicles which impede buses and school coaches and also threatens the safety of the residents. The reason why this SENT will be full by 2015 has something to do with the government's failure to implement waste reduction. In 2005, the government announced a MSW management framework 2005-2017, and it was a rather complete framework for waste management. However, looking back, a lot of items listed in 2005 have never been implemented as of now. And this framework is actually very similar to the action blueprint. And this shows that the framework policy in 2005 had not been implemented. Thank you very much. Mr. Lau Sai-ming. As a resident, I know the problem of landfill extension and the extent of the problem. Even if we strive hard to recycle and reuse, the landfills will be full in a very short time. If we don't properly manage the waste, one day maybe the trash would end up on our doorsteps. I think we should introduce modern incineration facilities. That's our imminent need. And I have several points to make. The recommended incineration technology proposed by the government has been adopted in many countries, and it's a mature technology to process MSW. However, Hong Kong as a big city has not started on this front, and we are behind Taiwan, Singapore, and even Macau. And second, after incineration, the MSW, the size, the volumes of the MSW would be only 1/10 of the original, and fly ashes and residual waste would be generated. And these ashes would be processed in landfills, and this is very important for Hong Kong because we have such as scarcity of land, and waste to energy. The heat energy generated from waste processing can be used to generate electricity, and 480 million units of electricity will be generated, enough for 100,000 households, and the residual power can be transferred to the public electricity grid. And a lot of people oppose to the venue of the new facility because of health concerns, but with the right air pollution control system, stringent monitoring, and a proper treatment to the emissions, the government should announce these emission figures for the public. We believe that it won't have very big impacts to the public, certainly negligible compared with car exhaust. We hope the government can listen to these views. Mr. Wan Chi-hong, I have interest to declare. My company had tendered a lot of projects by the EPD on waste management. On landfill extensions and the construction of IWMF, I have a few points to make. We have world-class waste management facilities, both in environmental protection and other aspects. But the current waste management is not sustainable because we rely too much on landfills. I agree with the action blueprints that we have to use different measures to enhance the sustainability of our waste management measures. And of those, waste charging and recycling are very important. I hope the relevant legislation can be enacted as soon as possible. And for MSW charging and recycling, I think it's very important. From the experience of other countries, if we want to achieve zero trash or zero landfill, it's unrealistic. We can adopt different measures, but we are still left with a large amount of trash to manage. In many developed countries, waste to energy facilities are being used. This technology is very mature and it's suitable for bigger facilities. In the past, incinerators have improved a lot technically, and they are doing a good job at controlling the amounts of emissions. I think these waste-to-energy facilities can improve the overall sustainability of Hong Kong's waste management facilities. I think the recycling system currently wouldn't be affected, and apart from building waste-to-management facilities, we still need the landfills. The landfills would be full within 10 years, and there is a need to extend them. And the waste-to-energy facilities won't be put into use until 2022. To ensure Hong Kong's landfill capacity in the coming years, we agree with the landfill extension at the 3 sites. Some people would want to tackle recycling first before turning to waste-to-energy facilities. I don't agree with this point.
Please.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Robert Clark. I'm a journalist. I cover technology and also urban development issues. The centrepiece of the government waste management plan is once again a very large capital works project. And once more we have an expensive public works item presented as the solution to a problem. And in our system of administration, there are incentives for these grand public works in favour of long-term problem solving. And indeed there are heavy incentives to do so and little penalty for not doing so. By the same token, there's no penalty or little penalty for not reducing a mountain of waste until it becomes too big to ignore. And I can attest from personal experience as a resident 17 years ago of Taipei that the city already then was collecting residential recyclables. They are a long way ahead of us. Instead of a one-off expensive monument and very large landfills, the heart of our waste management system should be sorting and recycling. And to get to this, we need to start by acknowledging that our actual level of recycling is a long way below the official government figure. Environmentalists I've spoken to say that our recycling level is most likely closer to 10% rather than the 50 or so % claimed. They also point out that an advanced automated sorting plant can deal with perhaps as much as 700 tonnes of waste a day. And with just 3 of these, we could achieve the same net result as the government planned before us. We could achieve it more quickly and we could achieve it much more cost effectively. So I endorse the plan presented by the Integrated Waste Management Action Group for genuinely integrated waste management facilities at multiple locations around the territory and with incineration as a very last resort. Not only is it a more balanced and lower risk solution, it is a fair solution. Instead of seeing waste as a problem to be solved by pushing it to the edge of the territories with very large landfills and a large incinerator, it is based on the premise that waste is a problem for all of us and that all of us need to take responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Stephen Townsend.
Thank you. My Cantonese name is Tang Ken Sing, named after my profession. I'm a city planning consultant for the City of Hong Kong and also on a 3-year contract with the City of Zhuhai, our neighboring city. My letter to LegCo has promoted a global approach to planning Hong Kong to maximize its value and hopefully avoid permanent environmental damage, regrettable environmental damage. Therefore, I am certainly opposed to the Shek Wu Chau incinerator proposal. The South Lantau coastline is a recreational mecca for all of Hong Kong and recently our neighbors to the, in the Pearl River Delta region. The quality of the place, which is defined by its high peaks, pristine maritime environment, and delicate riparian watersheds and coastline, are worthy of national park or if even a World Heritage Park status. Many of the islands within the Pearl River Delta, which Lantau is the largest, should be looked at as Hong Kong's last very valuable open space and recreational resource. It doesn't serve only the people of Lantau, it serves the entire city of Hong Kong. It serves now the entire region of the Pearl River. This is a very strong component of Asia's world city, which Hong Kong promotes so proudly. I do support the approach by the Integrated Waste Action Management Group, of which I am a member. I'd like to go through just a few key points of their proposal that was reiterated in their supplementary submission to LegCo. The amount of MSW going to landfills needs to be minimized by reducing total waste production, which means we need to increase education and recycling and make recycling available and profitable to the city of Hong Kong. Better use of landfill sites must be made by using these sites as proper integrated waste management facilities rather than just sites for dumping waste. Sorting plants, composting plants, recycling plants, and waste energy plants must be included on landfill sites where appropriate and at a scale that's appropriate to deal with the immediate districts that these waste management facilities serve, including an additional site on Lantau Island itself to take care of Lantau's own waste. That facility could even become a major educational facility associated with some of the recreational facilities that are included in the Lantau resource. A flexible action plan focusing on early implementation without the need for land reclamation needs to be provided in the context of the administration's proposed strategic review. The strategic review should be conducted first before implementation of Shek Wu Chau. Thank you very much.
Thank you. 下一位係香港綠色建。
Thank you. Hong Kong Green Building Council, Mr. Wong Tin Chang, engineer. Thank you. Chairman, we face a very serious problem with MSW. The Green Building Council is of the view that we need a sustainable waste management strategy and plan so that we can reduce waste at source. We should have recycling and also effective end treatment options so as to address this problem. We are producing a vast amount of waste. Even if we can achieve we can cut MSW by 4% in 10 years' time according to the blueprint. In 2017, we will be dumping 10,000 tons per day. So we must have an effective treatment at end point. We support the landfill extension plans. We are pleased that construction waste will be limited when it comes to delivery as sent, and the landfill will be restored to open space for recreational use by the residents. We must cut demolition and construction waste, and in the 1 billion recycling fund, some money should be reserved for supporting the recycling industry so that demolition and construction costs can be recycled, and there should be relevant studies, feasibility studies, and there should be proper cooperation with the town gas so that methane from landfills can be turned to useful energy. As regards incineration, the technology will enable us to deal with 3,000 tons of waste per day. I don't think, and there is no need for a land to sort out waste first, and therefore I support this option. However, in designing the incinerator, we must learn from successful experience of other countries. The facility should be integrated with other useful community facilities. Take Peitao of Taipei as an example. There's a lookout point and also a restaurant there. And then in other places, we've seen warm houses and also swimming pools built at incinerators, and this incinerator should be operated and built using the most advanced technology, and we should consider turning waste to energy so as to provide power supply to residents in the vicinity. Waste is already a pressing issue. I hope the administration can implement these measures as soon as possible to solve this very imminent problem so that we can become a green city. Thank you. Mr. Zhang Weisheng, the OC of Choi Min Court. Thank you. Starting from 2001, whenever the prevailing winds towards Choi Min Court, the odor from scent would disturb us, and we receive complaints from residents of odor. So the scent landfill has brought pollution and traffic jams to us. Well, because of the amount of heavy vehicles to the landfill, while we have the Zhangguan-O line, we still have a lot of problem, and therefore the OC of Choi Min Court is against the extension of the Central landfill. On the 16th of June 2013 and on the 22nd of February 2014, we joined our vehicle parade to oppose to the proposed extension of Central landfill. Choi Min Court will join all the residential developments in Zhangguan-Ho. We oppose the extension of the Central landfill. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Zhang. Mr. Raymond Ho. Thank you, Madam Chair. This morning, Cyclone District Councillors and residents of Zhangguan-O had a crane outside the electrical complex. We put up a banner to ask for the closing down of the Central landfill, and we've also handed you signatures collected in Zhangguan-O. Our demands are very clear. First, this bundled up waste or environmental infrastructure projects is a very bad precedent for dealing with very controversial public issues. Why should you bundle the extension of the 3 landfills with this integrated waste treatment facility? We have experts here. I think landfills bring very different problems from incineration. Now, if you want to bundle everything up, you bundle the whole issue with the remuneration of the secretary and undersecretary. Well, if you cannot resolve the problem, you should face a salary cut. Actually, the issues can be broken down and tackled one by one. I think you are just conniving the government. The government is not facing up to the real issues of refuse. This recycling park by the government is spent tens of millions of dollars for plastic recycling, and yet the waste plastic is just piled up there. And the cable TV has got a series of documentary. Well, we have the 3-color recycling bins, and it's found that the plastic collected there is just dumped at our landfills legally by the contractors. The government is not carrying out the waste management measures seriously, and yet we do not have any sorting facilities in residential developments. So the government has gone for this bundle-up approach, and we residents in Zhongguan are very angry, and you are only polarizing the community. And the second demand from the residents is very clear. We want the Central Landfill to be closed down. It has been in operation for a quarter of a century. It is as big as 100 Victoria Park, and you want to extend it. Can you tell me how long is it going to operate? Well, if a couple has courted for a long time, so perhaps the lady will ask the man when they are going to get married. There should at least be a date set. Now, it's not that we are not rational. We want the government to be reasonable. You earned more than $10 billion from the land sales of Zhongguan in the past 2 years. And yet, property owners of Zhongguan are asked to suffer. Dr. Newton Chen. Thank you. I specialize in waste to energy technology and also incineration. I'd like to share with you my personal experience and views. First, coming to a conclusion. Well, even if by 2022 we can cut our waste by 40%, we still need landfills and also a comprehensive waste management plan to address the waste issue in Hong Kong. Policymakers should implement our waste management strategy at once, and I hope that the legislature can give the green light for the funding of the integrated waste management facilities so they can be commissioned as soon as possible so that we can reduce the burden on landfills. Whether the strategy is successful or not, well, it takes time. The mix-up of waste, the quantity of waste now may be very different from what it will be in the future. So I urge the authorities to do a waste flow model to see whether there is a need for phase 2 of the IMWF to be constructed. The EPD proposes using moving grade incineration because this has been proven, it has good track record. I understand the EPD's position. It's true that if we use the moving grade incinerator, we will face less risk, and the technology is also more proven. However, I hope that you don't have to specify the technology in the IWMF. The contractor should be given the chance to submit the best solution to the department for its consideration. And as for the emission of waste and dust in the EU, it should be less than 10%, and fluorines and dioxin less than 2%. If you want to further lower the concentration of ash and particulates, you can have a multi-staged advanced FGT solution. And as for ash and residues, 20% is bottom ash, and 6% is fly ash, and also bottom ash. I think bottom ash can be turned to gravel for the construction industry. Thank you.
Next, Zero Waste Smart City Resources Association Limited, Professor Peter Reid.
And officials. The most fundamental question we face here is that the government's policy is putting literally everything to air. Now, you may have heard of a global warming problem, and everything in that case is a very fundamental principle. That is the Keeling principle, which is really named after Ralph and Charles Keeling, who invented the CO2 scale to measure CO2 in the atmosphere. But what we have here, the Keeling principle is very simple. It says the whole problem here is putting carbon to atmosphere. And what you're doing is literally with all the government's programs that you have proposed here today, and also the existing one, which is starting testing right now, is putting carbon to atmosphere. They're putting carbon to air. And that is, they're therefore replacing the waste problem with the global warming problem. Literally, you're wasting the air. You're wasting the environment. You've forgotten about the global warming problem altogether. And the most basic thing you have in an equation in an incinerator is what goes in comes out, i.e. that what you put in there comes out in one form or another. It's either going to be retained, as the previous speaker said, as bottom ash, and that is toxic normally. It's around 17% on average. The fly ash is around 7% again, so 25% retention, so I don't know where the 9% figure comes from again. Most figures we seem to have from the EPD on everything don't make sense. All right, so all the figures on waste certainly don't make sense. What you have then is 75% of the mass of any incinerator going out the chimney. And what the proven statistics show is 50% of that stays within 10 kilometers. It stays there forever. And there is no safe level of dioxins, fluorines, that literally all the eco-ministers in the UK had their blood measured recently, and the second thing in their blood after DDT is dioxins, the third is fluorines, the fourth is heavy metals. So there's no safe level. But the fundamental question again is you're putting everything to atmosphere. You've forgotten the global warming problem altogether. That incineration should not be considered at all. Even landfills are putting the methane to atmosphere, the majority of it. So what is the solution? Well, zero waste is now being implemented across the world quite successfully. Taiwan you've seen the demonstrations in Taiwan recently. In Taiwan in 2003, you had a much bigger demonstration. That was against any further incinerators being built and any further landfills being put into effect. So what we're looking at here is, how do you do zero waste? Where is it being done? Can it be done? Very successfully, San Francisco is headed towards 100% zero waste in 2020. California is headed towards 75% waste. The methodologies are laid down very clear in the paper I've given.
Thank you, Professor. 下一位係香港廢物處理業協會有限公司譚志華先生，請。
何主席，我想有個要求啊，因為我今日代表5個商會
I recommend a few chambers and 2 companies. Can I have an extra minute? No, sorry, you cannot do so. So please use your time wisely. The 5 chambers share the landfill facilities. We have no current plan to improve the situation on a long-term basis, and so we have no choice but to support the landfill extension. I see a lot of members and guests today. They have made a lot of comments technically, but I just want to look at the issue from another angle. In the last 10 years, in terms of policy, we failed to implement a number of policies and facilities, and that's why we are facing this situation today. So I think the Secretary is trying to solve this historical problem, and the administration is aware of the imminency of this issue, and the Secretary is doing his best to solve this problem, and I see the imminent needs for this problem. And by 2016, 2017, the landfills will be full, and we won't have any facilities left to process the waste, and this is undeniable. In the 6 months before the landfills are saturated, we are facing a very difficult problem. The trade practitioners will start thinking about changing jobs. Their facilities will be useless, so they have to be sold, and we won't introduce any new facilities before the landfills are saturated. The costs of waste processing might go up the roof. And the residents living near landfills, they don't feel respected. And the residents are under pressure because the punishments handed over by the government officials seem to be excessive at times. Thank you very much, Mr. Tam. We will leave. Yes, your time's up. Hong Kong Kowloon and NT Grab Mountain Lorries Association, we oppose to the idea, so we will leave.
Sustainable Development Committee member of the Australian Chamber of Commerce, Ms. Robin Joseph, please.
Thank you. I represent members of the Australian Chamber of Commerce, which is very broad in their interest. We have big business and smaller business. Essentially, the members recognise the urgent need and support the extension of landfills and the construction of an incinerator. There are only 2 points that I'd like to raise that are somewhat different from what has been spoken about this morning. And I guess the members of the Chamber would like to call on the government to view waste as a resource and not as a problem. In doing that, we open up a different attitude towards new technologies and the way that we approach the problem of waste. To this end, we believe that it would encourage all sorts of opportunities around the recycling of specific types of materials that could be extracted and used in the production of new materials, and it would also ensure that we pull materials to make sure that we get the right calorific value in terms of the use of the incinerator. The other thing that we would very much like the government to do is to communicate transparently and more often. As a chamber, we've found it sometimes difficult to get information, and obviously there's a lot of talk amongst experts who have different areas and different views, those sorts of things. So we would really ask that the government think about talking to a whole range of stakeholders, not just business and the people who are involved, but in fact looking at how we can talk to all range of stakeholders in this area so that they understand what it is we're trying to achieve, because all the citizens and stakeholders within Hong Kong have a role to play in the efforts that we need to make in order to have a successful waste management strategy, whether it be from recycling or from an energy generation point of view. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Joseph. The next speaker is Madame Pushi from the Arc Eden Company.
Thank you. In 2010, each Hong Kong resident produced an average of 921 kilos of rubbish and a grand collective total of nearly 6.5 million tons over a year. And things have not improved since then. Arc Eden opposes the proposal for building a super incinerator in Hong Kong, believing here are much better alternatives to this, and the solutions Hong Kong needs to take on are multifaceted. Number one is waste management, reducing. Products that cannot be reused and recycled, for example, styrofoam, need to be phased out. Companies that overpackage need to be penalized and made to clean up waste from their products. Public needs to be educated about eco-consumerism and not to be encouraged to overconsume as they are now. Reusing. In countries such as Finland, there is a high level of reusing, for example, glass bottles washed and refilled. Recycling is awfully lacking in Hong Kong. Facilities need to be created for proper glass recycling, not just turning it into more construction material. Same goes for plastics. Public increasingly wants to recycle, but facilities are very limited. There is also evidence some recycling end up in landfill, really. There is an empty eco-park facility in new territories that contractors won't use because of transport costs. Government needs to be rethink how to manage this and spend more money and more wisely on public recycling services. Food and organic waste is currently 44% of our waste. Organic farming and rooftop gardening is one of the biggest growing practices in Hong Kong. If government can commit to turn food into compost, I promise our schools will take it. In conclusion, Hong Kong needs to work towards a closed-loop system in terms of packaging and production. And incinerators are already old technology. Newer technologies need to be explored. For example, gasification reduces remainder that has to go to landfill. It can also be used to turn both existing landfill waste and new waste into fuel for aviation and marine industries. Both are key industries of Hong Kong. Cathay Pacific has already expressed interest in biofuel produced from waste. Protection of ecology and natural beauty. Waste management facilities should be sensibly constructed in an area already used for industrial purposes, ideally close to existing refuse transfer facilities that are well connected by road and sea. Arc Eden remains opposed to the particular site of Shak Koo Chau, as it is one of the last remaining habitats for Chinese white dolphin and finless porpoise and 2 species of snake endemic to Shak Koo Chau. It also makes no sense to build waste facilities in areas of natural beauty that Hong Kong public uses for leisure. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. 跟住我請局長對議會團體嘅發言。
Secretary, can you give a brief reply to the deputations? Thank you, Chairman, and I thank the deputations for their comments. I'd like to summarize my reply in 3 main points. First, the administration is very committed to resolving the MSW issue, which is long-standing in this community for the general welfare, for environmental hygiene, and for public health. We have already prepared a blueprint for treating the problems at source. For instance, for those who are familiar with the subjects, you know we need short-term measures to tackle this very imminent problem. However, our vision, we share your vision. We want to turn Hong Kong to a green city. So we have a multi-pronged approach. Our object is to reduce the per capita disposal of municipal waste by 40% by 2022. Regarding incineration, well, I've heard a lot of support this morning, knowing that this is already a mature technology and it is an indispensable element of our blueprint. We use the EU standards, which are the highest, as a bottom line, and we will add other key features. For instance, we have more nitrogen oxides in our atmosphere, and we will tackle this in particular. And we'll also discuss with the community to enhance transparency regarding the choice of site and also its capacity. You know, we have gone through a lot of procedures, town planning, environmental assessment, and also discussion by the tourism and green sectors. Well, in Shak Koo Chau and Tuen Mun and Tsingyi, we have other waste treatment facilities. Just like Taiwan, we are going to enhance we are going to enhance the rate of recycling. You have to understand that in Taiwan they have also got incinerators, although they are not going to expand or add to the number of incinerators already in the place. And as for landfilling, yes, waste is the responsibility of all. In fact, the landfills are almost up to their capacity. They're not going to close down prematurely because of the waste disposed of by the public. Now, of course, we should look to extend the lifespan of a landfill. Just as Singapore, the landfills are expected to last 30 years, but now they can prolong it to 40 years. And as for the extension of the 3 landfills, as a result of the extension, we can cut the number of vehicle trips to our landfill per day from, say, 100 to 50. So this will benefit residents. And I think residents in Sheung now have to admit that this will improve the odor problem that is haunting Sheung. And we've set up district liaison groups near landfills to involve the local community so that the operation of landfills can be monitored and improved to reduce nuisance to residents. So we take care of the territorial need, and we will also seek to minimize the nuisance to individual districts. Well, I don't think that the liaison group is high level enough. It should be upgraded to a monitoring group with representatives from residents being members as well. Now, 2 speakers. The 2 speakers did not make it before the last guest speaker has spoken. I will not allow them to speak because this will be an undesirable precedent because deputations arrive only after the last speaker has spoken. It would be difficult for us to proceed. So I have said to the Secretariat they are welcome to sit in at this meeting, but they will not be given the chance to speak. Let me reiterate, I don't know who they are, I don't know their position, but I just stick to the rules. All right. Members, do you have any questions for the deputations present? Mr. Gary Fan. 4 minutes each, okay? Sorry, Mr. Wang Yintong actually put up his hand first. Let me tell you how I'm going to proceed. We invite the administration to respond in each session, and we will also encourage interaction between the deputations and officials. If you have no questions for the speakers or the deputations, I invite them to leave, and then we will continue with our meeting with the administration. But of course, this is an open meeting. Even after you've left, you are welcome to monitor the meeting in the public gallery. So, members, at this stage, please mainly direct your questions to the deputations. Mr. Ronnie Tong, 4 minutes each. Speakers off mic. I want to put questions to the officials, but because I have an appointment, please allow me to direct my questions to the administration first. Once again, the administration is imposing it on the council. This is disappointing, and I'm so angry. Because many jungle residents feel that they've been put on the spot because of the bundled up arrangement. The residents in Sheung have suffered for a long time, and they have not benefited from any remedial measures from the administration. And although it was said that there was a deadline to the operation of the landfills, and yet the administration has sought many rounds of extension. Now, if the proposal is turned down, then residents of Sheung will have to bear the blame. The government should do some advanced work. If you look at the paper, on the question of waste disposal, we're given some data, but on other very important issues, the administration has failed to give us any data. First, enhanced monitoring of odor. I think this is one of the greatest concerns of residents of Zhang Quan O. Have there been more complaints in recent years? More or less, I think we should be given this information because it is a very clear indicator. And then air pollution, air or air quality, according to the administration, is better now, but we are not given any data. So can you give us the data to be transparent, to let us know whether there was any improvement last year? And as for the landfill bank, we're told that they are using transport by sea more. But can you give us the actual data? Is it really true that there's been improvement to the field bank? If you don't do the preparation well and you come to the council, you only lead to objections in the community. As a legislator, I find it hard to support you. Now, you tell us that the construction waste will be deposited at Zhang Quan O. Why don't you introduce all these measures to improve the environment first before you come back to us? Now you tell us that by 2017 or 2015 the landfill will be full. Well, wait until it is saturated first before you come back to us. What's wrong? You improve the air quality, the odor, and other things, and you come back to us and now for an extension. It is hard for us to block you. You ask us to trust you, but you don't have a good record. You told residents of Zhang Quan O that the landfill would only have a limited lifespan, but you have gone back on your words. So how can we trust you? Do you have any data to convince us that the mitigation measures are really effective? Well, 4 minutes, you've only got 15 seconds for the Secretary to reply. Allow me to clarify. Yes, of course, there is a lifespan for all facilities, but we did not say that there's a definite deadline, but I can supplement later. Mr. Gary Fan's turn, but Mr. Yik Chi Ming has another meeting, so he's asked to speak out of his turn. And if Mr. Gary Fan doesn't mind, I'll invite Mr. Yik to speak first. Thank you, Mr. Fan. The Liberal Party supports incineration. This is for sure. But there are different views from the community when it comes to the 3 landfills. So I hope that when this paper goes to PWSC, the landfills are singled out for separate treatment. Thank you. Mr. Gary Fan. Thank you. This is weekday, and I can understand why many deputations are absent. So, Secretary, I hope you understand that many deputations have to take leave to come here in particular, so please understand them. And Ms. Sheung of the Green Council is not objecting to incineration. They just want you to improve other things first. And we have got more than 1,000 signatures collected over 2 evenings in Zhang Quan O because they can't come here today, and they are telling you that they oppose the extension of the Central landfill. And the Sai Kung District Council, representing the community, came to meet with legislators yesterday. They talked about various measures, the charging scheme, recycling, so on and so forth. And I'd like to ask the representative, what is the view of the district council? In the district council, there are representatives from different political parties, and they also represent the local community. Mr. Ho. Yes, when we met with LegCo members yesterday, the landfill problem was was top of our list. The District Council's position is very clear. All along we are against the extension of the sand landfill. I've been a District Councillor in Sai Kung for more than 11 years. I've never seen a motion supporting the extension of the landfill. In 2008, in our 4th meeting, we passed a motion before the odor, environmental issues of the landfill is resolved, and before full consultation of the local community, this district council is strongly against the extension of the landfill. And then in 2008, there was another motion passed of similar wording. In 2010, at the 6th meeting of the district council, we passed an amended motion before the traffic, odor, environmental, and hygiene issues are involved, and before you have the full support of the community after consultation, we are against the extension of the landfill, and we ask for review of the use of Area 138 for storage of dangerous goods. And then later on, there was also an amended motion passed to ask for closing down of the sand landfill as soon as possible, and to provide a timetable for closing down the landfill with all the details and a restoration plan. And in 2013, the 5th meeting, we passed another motion to urge the administration to fully consult the residents, the district council, and the stakeholders before extension of the landfill. So far, we have not passed any motion to support the extension. So the district council, which represents the community, has never endorsed the extension of the landfill, no matter how much money you're going to provide to district councils, no matter how much you talk about delegation of authority to the district council, you really don't pay any heed to the views of the district council. So what do you mean by respect for district administration? And what about enhancing the roles and function of district councils? And you are setting up another stove by setting up district liaison groups. Thank you. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Of course, landfilling is not just a problem for Jiang Quan. The North District and also Tuen Mun are also affected, and other districts also face the problem of waste management. So this is a highly controversial issue. For so many years, when we discuss landfills, we frequently ask the administration, how well are we doing recycling? Are we doing enough? Last year, we opposed the extension of all 3 landfills, and Mrs. Carrie Lam set up an interdepartmental steering committee very quickly. I don't know what progress the steering committee has made. This is so worrying. I think we are moving very hastily as far as construction of landfills is concerned. But for recycling of resources, we just drag our feet. I think departments have not done their level best. As far as recycling is concerned, they just take care of their own business. I am going to amend Mr. Gary Fan's landfills. I am not going to support the extension of the 3 landfills. And the Secretary should make good use of the coming month or so, at least convince us how we can greatly enhance our efforts in recycling. I think those who are here are very concerned about waste management. They're all saying that please don't think that after you have dealt with waste at the terminal point, then you can drag your feet when it comes to recycling. We know that no matter how well we are recycling our resources, we still need some form of treatment at the end of the process. We also understand that some facilities take time. The incinerator in particular, it is now the subject of a judicial review. Still, will you be able to do it? I think it hinges upon the result of the JR. But Secretary, we support you to submit the funding application for preparation of the incineration, but we oppose the extension of the 3 landfills. Thank you.
Does the Secretary have any response? Thank you very much for the comment of Mr. Wu. I understand what you were saying. So we are stepping up our efforts. The recycling committee is working hard, though it's a complicated problem. In response to Mr. Wu, before we have incinerators, when we have such an imminent need, why don't you look at the issue from straight on? We have been discussing this issue for the last 10 years. When you talk about mainstream opinion since last summer, everyone can see and there is support for the 3 landfill extensions and the new incinerator. I'd like to remind the deputations and other attendants, if you wish to leave, you may do so now. Maybe do the members have anything you want our deputations to respond or clarify? If not, the deputations may leave. Thank you very much for attending this meeting on a weekday, a working day. Thank you very much. Next, Chen Heng-pan. Thank you, Chairman. As the Secretary said, a lot of people support the incineration facilities. Maybe we have support here today, but the residents of Cheung and other areas might still be concerned because their questions haven't been answered, especially the health impacts. The incinerators will be there for a long time, so they're worried about health impacts, and the fishermen are also concerned. And the issue of environmental concerns haven't been addressed as well. You are just, Secretary, you are just giving us the bad things, and you haven't given us any good things. People have put forth their demands, and they have urged the government to improve. Even if you manage to pass this proposal, if the government cannot address the concerns of Cheung Chau residents and South Lantau residents, if you have no concrete measures, even if you manage to pass the proposal today, you still have to go through PWSC and FC, etc. You still have a couple of hurdles to get over. I hope in the coming time the Secretary can do something for real for the residents of South Lantau and Cheung Chau, so they will be more confident the Secretary, you must be sincere and let the residents know that you care about their concerns. Maybe the Secretary can respond. Thank you very much for your comment. We are concerned on the two aspects you mentioned. For our infrastructures, we care about their impacts on public health. As I said, we adopt the highest EU standards or even beyond. We will also communicate closely with different stakeholders, including fishermen. So we understand concerns from the districts, and we want to solve a problem for Hong Kong and at the same time maintain communication with different districts. In the early stage of our planning, we will enhance two-way communications. As I said, the district liaison officers include district representatives and not just government officials. There will also be experts in those groups, and those groups will be able to monitor our progress. And in the planning phase of the incinerators, public engagement is important. When we are applying for landfill extension and the IWMF construction, we will do our sincere best to solve the problem and respond to different needs of the society. I hope the district liaison groups have to do something concrete and not just hold empty meetings. Kenneth Chen. We heard a lot of comments the past Saturday, and we have had representatives and deputations today giving their views. I was asked by media friends these days whether or not we must have a decision today. I recommended the public hearing at LegCo in order to organize the comments from different residents. Of course, those include the signatures and petitions, etc. Such hearing is important because people have been saying that the government is not addressing the public's needs properly. I just hope we're not here just as a formality. We hope the Secretariat can organize the thoughts shared today. The difference between today and the previous meeting is that today we have certain professional deputations giving more concrete accounts. Maybe Mr. Wong also attended the public hearing on Saturday, but they have not responded. For example, Ian Brownlee proposed a Plan B, and he proposed introducing small incinerators in existing waste management facilities. Of course, the administration can have a different view, but before the government responds and we have to make a decision today, I don't think we are doing justice to the public, to LegCo, to everyone. The green bodies have 6 major requests. I see the Secretary is shaking his head. So why are you shaking your heads? In response to your comments, what the green groups mentioned actually they are actually in line with what we mentioned in the Blueprint for Sustainable Use of Resources. We drew up this 10-year action blueprint very carefully after consultation with experts. And the blueprint addresses Hong Kong's long-standing problems. In the next 10 years, which action items should take priority? The blueprint is a holistic approach a very specific approach to tackle Hong Kong's problems. We have told a lot of green groups and experts the blueprints are very similar for all countries. The key is how can we implement what is being said in the blueprint. If we have timelines, we are going in that direction. For example, waste charging. It's taken for granted for many countries. It's a must-have. So when we look at the blueprint, we want to garner electoral support, public support. So we hope it can be implemented in 2016. Green Group said they don't have to be completed by 2016. As you know, we have a lot of hurdles to go through. So that's our view. Maybe I will speak again in the second round if time is limited. Yes, you can do it in second round. Because I don't, the secretary hasn't really responded. Mr. Lo Wai Kwok, for incinerators. In terms of incinerators, I'm perhaps I'm one of the most I'm one of the electrical members who pay attention to these facilities earliest. In the past, there were no treatment facilities, and I didn't know how to. I wasn't aware of wearing masks, so the air quality was very bad, and there were no landfills, no incinerators, and at that time, the government. I was a member of the Waste Management Committee of the government. We visited Japan, and we were marveled by their standard of incinerators, and their waste management was excellent. And these years, we have visited the Pearl River Delta and Korea with trade professionals. And our trip to Europe allowed me to learn a lot about waste to energy facilities and technologies. As you can see, modern incinerators are very clean, and they can process more than 4,000 tons of waste. And the capacity is excellent. And other new technologies like gas ionizers. I learned about those technologies in this trip. I learned about their applications and limitations. For example, in Japan, gasifiers and ionizers are used for special trash. The government is supporting a 3,000-ton waste to energy facility in Shakuchao. I agree. I support this idea, and it is with reason. And on EIA assessment and venue, I do have some experience to share. At that time, the EIA report at Shakuchao and Chengchou, I have reviewed these EIA reports. I was part of the Advisory Council for Environment. So as a professional engineer, I think I can judge impartially. And on such basis, I support the construction of the incinerator. And I think that 3 landfill extensions are inevitable. Some people are saying that if we have incinerators, we won't need such big landfills. That is a fact. In terms of infrastructure, I understand your recommendation, Secretary. Landfills are of a foundation, so you have to avoid leachates. So it's like having a big basin but are we going to fill up our basin? If we have waste to energy facilities, if we do better in waste reduction, so Secretary, can you promise, even when the infrastructure is done, can you reduce the usage of landfills by phase? And can you start by from the areas with far from residents?
Well, the Secretary can reply in the second round. Ms. Elizabeth Quat. I think the administration has said very clearly the worries and concerns of the public. In fact, I can appreciate their concerns. And they've mainly stemmed from a lack of success on the administration's part when it comes to waste management measures. In the past half year or so, the administration have tried very hard to introduce improvement measures, but they have not yet been fully implemented, and residents of Sheung have not seen the full results, nor are they confident that you can really implement the improvement measures because they feel that the government doesn't manage things well. This morning, a radio host said to me, "How can I trust the government? You just look at the refuse transfer stations. They are smelly and dirty, and in other countries, the refuse transfer stations are very clean. And what's the point of having a grab or a cover for the refuse construction, refuse trucks?" So they are not confident in the government. So you must review the various waste management measures. Now, if you're not managing these measures well, then even if you tell people that in future you're going to have a lot more measures, what's the point? And fly tipping is also a serious problem. Take the landfill at Sheung as example. While the administration claims that they have installed CCTV at black points, at black spots, and they have also stepped up enforcement, but this is only driving fly tipping to other locations, and residents still feel that the odor is bothering them. So what's the point of talk about new measures? So you should take administrative measures. For instance, you should allow refuse vehicles to go into your landfill first before weighing to avoid fly tipping. And in Europe, they have advanced technology and they have very good management of such facilities. There is no odor to bother the residents, and therefore the facilities are more acceptable to the public. And members of the public are worried that if the three landfills are allowed to be extended and the incinerator constructed, perhaps you will not continue to step up recycling efforts. Perhaps you just landfill or burn everything. So while the administration has tried hard, it's failed to convince the public that these measures are going to be effective. Just this morning, there's a report in the press that plastic bottles are dumped at our recycling park. And we haven't seen details of the recycling fund yet. So the administration has a lot to do. The three landfills and the incinerator has brought a lot of problems to us. While we understand the urgency, we also have a lot of opposition in the community. Legislators might have inspected incinerators, but we haven't got enough time to explain to the public. Well, same as Mr. Loy Kwok, if you want the Secretary to reply, then you can devote all 4 minutes in your second round to the administration. Any more members in the second round or in the first round? Well, we do have time. So in the second round, also 4 minutes. Mr. Wu Chiwai. Thank you. I think the Secretary was very confrontational in his reply. He said that there has been more than 10 years of discussion on landfills. Now, I agree that there is a need for landfills, but the question is whether the department or government officials are committed to do a good job in waste management. I fail to see any result, and the public are also very worried. It's true that we need landfills or incinerators. I dare to say that I won't oppose to any proposal you have, but I think you are allowing all departments to dump their problems into your court. Well, can you really have green stations in all 18 districts? Can you, for instance, recover the refuse collection centers and use them as green stations in the community? The greatest problem with recycling is the logistics. Mrs. Karen Lam asked you to work with other departments, but you have not handed in any report card. When we discussed the 3-color recycling bins, I already told you that there's something wrong with this operation, and yet you continue to tender out the collection, and I think you are just putting money into the pocket of the contractor on key. And this morning, the recycling park has got your contract, and yet the materials collected are highly polluted, and they end up being dumped in landfills. So if you do not turn usable resources or usable waste into valuable resources, this is a dead end. Now you go to visit the place on site. Now, for people who recycle old wires, they will certainly separate the plastic and also the wire in between, because both are valuable. So you just think of outsourcing. I urge you to put forward a convincing plan. You should not just force us, you should force all government departments to work with you wholeheartedly. Secretary, thank you. Why is TCS4A leading steering committee to promote the sustainable development of the recycling industry? This is because for green stations and are also other measures, we need coordinating efforts. Let me use an example to tell you how the department, the bureau, and the departments are working together. For instance, the waste charging scheme. We've asked both the housing department and private property residential developments to cooperate with us in the trial scheme or pilot scheme. So we have put together efforts of different departments. It's true that there is resistance and there are challenges. Today we have the Rugby Sevens tournament, and we have asked the LCSD to help us to recycle waste on spot. Professor Kenneth Chen. Yes, I'd like to follow up on the 6 measures proposed by the administration. The Secretary said that we share the common goal. No, we are worried that you will not deliver on your promises. Now, this is not do not take it personal. Even the previous term of government has got lots of blueprints or strategy and framework. They propose those plans, but they have not provided any timetable, and therefore this time we are very concerned about the timetable and roadmap. So you want us to trust you, but you failed to convince the green groups, the community, and the council. I understand that you face big challenges. Yes, indeed, challenges are big, but we have this very humble request. We want you to set a time frame, the progress, and how you're going to use the recycling fund. And yet, if you cannot give us the details, how can you convince us? Secretary. Mr. Chen, you talked about the 6 directions proposed by the green groups. Let me go through them one by one. The blueprint for sustainable use of resources has got a very clear time frame, but there are more eager organizations in the community that would like us to move faster. You have to understand that our blueprint is pragmatic. The greatest challenge is for the blueprint to be implemented first. We are confident that it can be done. But if you want us to expedite the process, you want us to step up efforts, you have to understand. For instance, 2016 and 17, we can impose waste charging, and the group would like us to implement that earlier. Well, as legislators, you know how long it takes for the council to scrutinize a piece of legislation. Another piece of legislation has got 20 meetings already. So, and as for the producer pay responsibility, well, we do have a priority. In Dr. Sarah Liu's day, back then tires, old tires was a concern, but now it's already not a big issue. So we have reviewed the priorities, and I think we have prioritized the different types of products. The third point, construction waste. We have been in touch with the industry, and in our blueprint, it is our timetable to tackle this issue within this year. Sorting of waste. Whether there should be a recycling fund, as I said, we are going to announce the details of the fund as soon as possible, but it is a complicated issue and we need time to communicate with the industry. Point 5. Should we ban the delivery of some recyclable materials to our landfills or incinerator? Now you have to understand, you want to ban all food waste by a certain date, but our facilities can only tackle a certain percentage of food waste. And is it reasonable for us to be so aggressive? In Taiwan, they took a long time to set conditions right before they can come to this stage. Mr. Low Kok-Wai. Regarding the 3 landfills, I'd like the Secretary to tell us what mitigation measures there are. For instance, residents in Tuen Mun would like to scale down the extension as far as possible. They will also talk about a phased development and start from places where the adverse impacts are minimal. And as for refuse transportation, you should minimize the impact on the community, and you should also consider the development needs of Tuen Mun, and landfills should be restored much quicker and turn them into useful facilities for the community. And there must be enhanced control of waste management. There should be a task force set up to do that. I will leave time for the Secretary to reply. I think there's been some improvements in the past year, to be fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Low. You mentioned a few points. First, enhancement of communication within districts. Tuen Mun and Yuen Long were the first districts in which we ran these liaison groups. We would enhance our work in these fronts. In terms of recovering landfills, there are 2 recovered landfills in Tuen Mun. We have a 1 billion fund to revitalize these landfills to benefit the districts and community. We will announce very shortly how we can make use of these space in terms of leisure and sports. For Tuen Mun, the landfills will expire in 2019, and later we will discuss how to make use of that space. We also discussed with the Tuen Mun District Council. We have agreed to shrink the area to under 200. The tender must be done in one go. We cannot split up the tenders. We will optimize the capacity and optimize management measures in order to put public money into good use. We can use the landfills in phases. When one fill is full, we will expand, and we can also do some greening by phase as well. So we can use the landfills by phase to minimize their environmental impacts. The elevated layers might cause less environmental nuisance, and we will continue to consult different district personnel. However, I want to stress there is urgency in the tender exercise, and in the periphery of the extension areas, we would carry out greening and green barriers in the villages as soon as possible. Elizabeth Quat. Thank you, Chairman. Just now, the Chairman recommended giving some time to the Secretary to respond on how to give the public more confidence, especially on the problem of odor. So I will hand the floor to the Chairman. Thank you very much, Ms. Quat. I will say something about your question, and maybe Dr. Chen can supplement. For Cheung Kwan O, we have solutions to be implemented in phase. And I admit some measures might not be immediately effective. For example, on the problem of fly tipping, we have already installed CCTVs after discussions with the district council, and we are carrying out prosecutions. However, for other measures, we need to give it some time before we can see the results. Dr. Chen. We have different mitigation and law enforcement as well as monitoring measures in Cheung Kwan O, and we have made reports to the Sai Kung District Council. A task force was launched by the Sai Kung District Council. Just now, members asked why we have no figures. Maybe I can share a few numbers with you. In terms of traffic in Whampoa Road, we have seen improvements, and CDD's fill banks are completely closed on Sundays and public holidays. And we are looking at transfer barges in urban areas, and instead of transportation by road, we would use maritime means. And by 2015 and 16, we can further reduce the number of vehicle visits by 200. In terms of deodorizing, I'm sure members are aware that in January this year, the refuse vehicles have been retrofitted. and we will further retrofit 200 more vehicles. We will retrofit these private vehicles, and the sludge treatment plants in Tuen Mun was put into use last year. And these sludge are gradually being transported away from the 3 landfills. And for Cheung Kwan O, Ta Kuleng, and Tuen Mun, we have conducted annual reviews with the trade. And I can share a few figures. For Cheung Kwan O, from August last year to January this year, we have issued more than 200 prosecutions. Most of them are for speeding or overloading and dripping. We have 42 cases of dripping and also some cases of verbal warning. We have reported these to the district councils. And for the black spots identified by CCTV surveillance, I think I agree with the members. These so-called black spots would move around. Apart from CCTV, they have also done inspections, and they have communicated with the trades. Most illegal activities were done after the opening hours. And on the monitoring of PM 2.5 levels, there's an independent monitoring point in Cheung Kwan O. Gary Fan, I have attended both hearings. There were more than 170 deputations. And I think maybe 10 or 20% would agree. And from my estimation, around 25% of the deputations opposed to the SENT extension, landfill extension. We have people opposing to incinerators and the landfill extensions in NT. And I think only chambers and certain green trades agree with these 3 landfill extensions and incinerators. And it's easy to understand because they are the trash producers. And before we have a plan in place, before a charging scheme is in place, if they agree with your proposals, they wouldn't be affected by policies such as waste reduction at source. That's my interpretation. In Seoul or other cities, we can see MSW management has political and technical considerations. Politically speaking, the issue is, can we share the burden in order to facilitate sustainable management? I think the government's proposal of bundling the 3 landfill extensions and incinerators is not fair in terms of procedure. People who oppose to your policy do so because of the unfair process. If Wuchi doesn't agree with my motion, he shouldn't amend it. Instead, he should propose these motions one by one, and so that the voting can be done separately for each item. I think this is the fairest approach. Of course, I wouldn't oppose to his motion amendment, but the incineration facilities and the 3 landfill extensions should be tackled separately. I have a question for the Secretary. One of the Green groups oppose completely to the idea of incineration, and I don't agree with that. Some Green groups said without recycling and waste reduction at source, you shouldn't turn to incineration. the deputations today actually said something very similar as the deputations last year. Can we, the problem is, can we implement the policy in phases? We should give the different work items priorities, and this also shows the administration's commitment and sincerity. And the second issue is the power of enforcement. You have to show us you have the capability to enforce the legislation, and even if these proposals go through, you would still do something about recycling and waste reduction at source. Secretary, please don't respond to the other issues. If Gary Fan has another round of questions, the Secretary can respond later. First round, Lee Chuk-yan. Thank you, Chairman. The Labour Party doesn't really understand what the government means for the 3 landfill extensions and 1 incinerator. No one wants these facilities in their backyards, and the government always says they would be committed. But the concept of a shared commitment is a never-ending issue. Apart from short-term issues, how can you offer confidence to the residents after these landfill extensions and new incinerator? Can you guarantee that they won't have to suffer anymore? This has something to do with recycling and waste reduction at source in general in the whole of Hong Kong. We see the government has funds dedicated to recycling. However, we have had discussions within the party. The question is, we know you will do something, but we don't know the extent in which you will do your work, especially in terms of recycling and waste reduction at source. If you can show us your dedication, the residents would be more assured that the problem won't come back. We are requesting a recurrent expenditure of $2 billion, and you say you're still doing your math. I know what you're going to say. I'm like talking to myself, and the real problem is I cannot see how dedicated you are and what kind of results we can expect. I'm the Secretary. I'm in the recycling fund, and I spend a lot of time to see how we can benefit the recycling trades. I agree with the comments of different members. I'm very happy to see Mr. Lee Chuk-yan is able to put himself into our shoes. Some of our work is under progress. Maybe I'll tell you, I'll update you on our progress. If you want to achieve good recycling, you have to do sorting. Second, we must be able to collect the sorted materials or resources. And how can the trades participate, and what can we do to help them? We are constantly consulting the trades. They know very well for different types of waste materials. How would the government's policies or funds help them? They have given us a very broad scope of comments, from the preparation works. We have discussed how the trades can improve the quality of their works. The trades are thinking about introducing new systems. I have a follow-up question for the Undersecretary. A lot of people are saying that Hong Kong people don't know how to sort trash. The reality is we are living in such small spaces. It's hard for households for families to sort their trash. Even if we look at places like Europe, they only sort it in 2 categories.
In fact, a glass bottle can be divided into 3 categories: the cap, the bottle itself, and also the paper label. So given the crowded living environment in Hong Kong, it is hard for people living in very small units to sort their waste at home. And that's why we're saying that you must be generous and invest in green jobs so that when municipal or household waste is in the hands of property management agencies, where you must have a space large enough for for sorting with green jobs to sort them. I think the Secretary keeps saying that households should do their sorting at home, but in fact this is not practicable in small units. And in Hong Kong, many people have to do a few jobs before they can pay their rent. And you ask them to cut the label of the plastic so that they can separate items for incineration, for recycling. Well, they can't really do that, and everything ends up in the incinerator. So we hope that the recycling fund can set aside money to create green jobs so that some grassroots can take up these jobs so that our waste will not all go to incineration. And you can also promote recycling. I hope recycling can also be done in Hong Kong so that just like the Scandinavian countries, they are able to look at waste management from an economic perspective, and just to not think of using incineration to phase out landfilling. You should look at creating jobs in the green industry in waste treatment, and I hope that one day it can become a considerable economic activity in Hong Kong. And also like to follow on this steering committee, work progress of the steering committee. And please give us information on the progress of the steering committee. And late last year, we're told that a consultancy has been commissioned to carry out a consultancy study of 8 recyclable materials so as to see how the flow should be. We have yet to see the report. And on Saturday, more than 140 deputations came, and today more than 20. They've come from anti-West, anti-Southeast, from outlying islands. We've also got representatives of green groups and from the academia and from the business sector. I hope you will not just respond to these deputations orally here. Please provide a written reply to the different deputations, because we are very worried that once this topic is settled, you may not deliver on your promise. So please give us a reply to the deputations. Now, if the paper is endorsed, you must work on the follow-up action. If not, you must also work even harder so as to tackle the problem. The third round, Mr. Wu Chi-wai. It's so rare that I we can get to speak for the third time. Now the question is whether government departments are as committed as a secretary in waste management. Now the secretary, you talked about the need for land. I think we have talked about a number of times. The housing department has got LCP, and in new housing department construction sites, I think there is land for you to use. But have you ever heard the housing department saying that we support the development of recycling industry in this district so as to support the whole logistics of recycling? Never. And we say that waste of food is taking up the majority of space in our landfills. We have biofuel manufacturers in Hong Kong. Have we got anyone from the Transport Department to undertake that they're willing to work with the EPD and let's turn food waste to energy, to biofuel? Never. And as for refuse collection points, because of legislative constraint, FHD cannot have sorting of waste at RCPs. And we have not heard how FHD would like to support your work. From what we've heard so far is about spending money. Well, if there is no space in these districts, you are going to have green stations, and there will be social enterprises. And for Yan Oi, well, they have a similar problem. Do you know that? I think you know the problems encountered by each and every recyclable material, because all recyclable materials have a value. Even for plastic, it has value. The biggest problem is logistics, and I think you should offer support at the difficult points to be pragmatic. But at critical junctures where support and efforts from different departments are needed, well, we do not see any support at this point. According to reports, the greatest resistance is from housing department. They don't want this to happen because they don't know how they can keep their housing blocks clean. So this is about how much power you have over other departments in order to get their support. So, Secretary, please don't mind me if I keep targeting at your landfills. You have to ensure that other departments feel the same pressure, and they must hand in their homework, or they must give you their support according to a certain timetable. Yes, I think Mr. Wu is very correct. This is a pressing issue. And I think what you said just now, Mr. Wu, is happening in the government on a daily basis. However, we also need to come to LegCo for its support. We all know that waste management is a highly controversial topic, and I understand that we can have many questions to ask, and the whole discussion started last year, not just this month. So I'd like to seek members' views as to how we are going to move forward. First, I don't think we have to extend our meeting for 15 minutes because we're already 40 minutes into our discussion. And first, I need to seek your agreement first, there is no need for this meeting to be extended by 15 minutes. And secondly, we have a motion by Mr. Gary Fan and also an amendment to the motion by Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Now, if we're supposed to end by 12:45, when should we start discussing the motion and the amendment? I want some comments. Mr. Fan. I think we can start the discussion in 10 minutes' time, okay? Any other suggestion? If not, then I'll draw a line using that time frame. 2 more members would like to speak for the third time, Mr. Kenneth Chan and Mr. Gary Fan. Mr. Chan. Yes, I want to continue this dialogue with the Secretary because a written reply is different from an oral reply, so I do agree that we must have an information paper. The Secretary claims that some demands are not realistic. Now, food waste, we want Sihuan to be able to go ahead, and for stage 3, yes, we also wanted to proceed. Now, if what I'm thinking is unrealistic, please give me your views and justifications, Secretary. A few years ago, your political assistant said that there was no need for incineration so long as we can introduce a waste charging scheme, and also sorting at source. But now you're saying that but now things have changed. Is it because of lack of political will, or is it because of other things? We're concerned that you don't have the ambition to do it. Now, if you have a big incinerator and the landfill is extended, and if you fail to deliver on other measures, have you got plan B? Are you going to build another incinerator? If yes, where is it going to be? Plan B, Secretary. To answer Mr. Chan's earlier question, I think Dr. Chan understands that different stakeholders in Hong Kong have their own scientific basis. You understand that this is critical. For the organic waste management facility, even if it can be commissioned, now we have 1,000 or so food waste from the business sector. Now we are moving ahead at full steam, and yet the organic waste treatment center can only handle 500 tons per day. The incinerator will deal with 1/3 of the MSW in Hong Kong. Now this is not a very high proportion by any international standard. I'm not encouraging more incineration. I'm just saying that 1/3 will tackle the short-term and medium-term needs of Hong Kong. In the long run, now, we must have a comprehensive discussion on the strategy and also the technology. In other places, they also have incineration. In all advanced cities, they have this 5-pronged approach. And of course, the Council is entitled to its views on the order of implementation, but in fact, they should be done simultaneously. And I think both the Council and the community should share the responsibility. Now, when I first discussed, when I first met with legislators, well, we serve out water in a paper cup. So I think the waste production per capita in Hong Kong is high, and I think that's the source of the problem.
But Kenneth Chan asked you about Plan B. You didn't answer. he doesn't want to answer this question, probably. You have too many slogans. Gary Fan, I want to give the Secretary time to respond to my question. As I understand from the two public sessions, more than half the public doesn't agree with these 3 landfill extensions and incinerator. From my Seoul visit, how does the South Korean government tackle MSW? They adopted multiple approaches to engage the entire public. Right now, we shouldn't have continue to use landfills because it's convenient from an administrative point of view. The matter is not as simple as that. That's my view. The Secretary, please. Experiences, South Korea or other countries face a different situation as Hong Kong. I think your question is, how do we tackle this issue of 3+1? I have met a lot of trade facilities. They support our proposal of these 3 landfill extensions and new incinerator. Because of judicial review, we were not able to discuss the IWMF. So there were questions why we didn't table this issue earlier. So I just want to give you a bit of background. And there are short-term reasons as well. For the landfill extensions and incinerators, these are the results of more than 10 years of work. We cannot ignore this historical context. This is a very realistic problem. I think you also are obliged to respond to the community's needs, and that is, how can we stop Hong Kong from being a trash city? This is a very realistic issue. After so many rounds of discussions between the government and the legislators, we came up with this proposal of 3+1. We want to be pragmatic. If you want to be pragmatic, why don't you pass them one by one? Why do you have to bundle these in one motion? If you want to be pragmatic, why don't you discuss these items one by one and vote and allow us to vote one by one? We're here to. Our message is, why do you have to bundle them together? As I mentioned in our papers, the views from the community is that these should be discussed together. They should be discussed together, but not voted for together. You have 30 seconds. Our papers have responded to the community's comments, and that's why we table these issues in front of LASHCO. I think for the voting issue, members can continue to discuss. Gary Fan. We still have time for discussion. Albert Chan raised his hands in the first round. So let's draw a line here. As I said, we should be discussing the motions and amendment at 12:25. Albert Chan, 4 minutes. So the Secretary is just repeating what's being said 20 years ago. So in short, we continue to strongly oppose these landfill extensions, the IWMF, and the relevant funding applications. As long as, unless the government imposes mandatory waste sorting at source, all these discussions are in vain. we still find it inadequate. You mentioned waste charging. You stated waste charging as a criterion for waste sorting at source. You must have legislative and administrative measures to go with the policy. And what you're doing now is also not cost effective. And it cannot save the environment. You must implement mandatory waste sorting at source first. You must introduce a system for housing estates and residential blocks. In terms of administration, you must rewrite the rules and you must decide how many refuse transfer stations there are in this district. You must have a holistic and well thought out system. We have to enforce different measures. If you tackle glass balls today and plastic balls tomorrow, if you don't look at it from a holistic point of view, it's very wrong. You are going in the wrong direction. For years, people power, including myself, have been urging the government to have concrete measures. If you have done something, I'm happy to discuss these temporary measures with you. Very simply speaking, since the Edward Yao and Sarah Liao eras, I've been saying that you should work on plastic bags by the government first. I drove by Tongchong. Government staff were lawn mowing, and they were using huge, big plastic bags to contain those plants. You can just issue an instruction to forbid a government staff from using these plastic bags. At least you should do something, at least for publicity, if not anything. So my impression is this government is useless. This problem has been lingering for so long. I've always said that Edward Yao is useless. Do you want to be another useless secretary? I've been saying the same things over and over. I'm sure the chairman also knows. Every time we look at funding applications, if you don't satisfy our requirements, people power will continue to oppose. So we will take care of Gary Fan's motion and Wu Chi-wai's amendment. The motion was circulated last time, and we received an amendment motion this morning from Wu Chi-wai, and the text has been shared with all of you. In the last meeting, we had questions from members. The question was, if we have a motion, are we going to take care of it? My view is that we want to safeguard the freedom of expression for all members. Of course, at the end of the day, we must make a collective decision, but my recommendation is that we can take care of Gary Fan's motion directly. If we have no objections, we will take care of this part. We must vote before the end of the meeting. Can Gary Fan explain his motion? 3 minutes. I'll make it real quick. Thanks for allowing me to propose this motion. I proposed almost an exact same motion this time last year, and it was passed. and it was discussed in the PWSC meetings. From the two public sessions, we have collected a lot of opinion. Apart from, I think the government's proposal is an urban planning error, and the impacts are questionable. I understand Wuchi-Wai's amendments. I understand the political responsibilities of LegCo members. However, I do think we should look at these three projects one by one instead of bundling them together. So for Wuchi-Wai's amendment, I can only abstain. And I have to stress, I don't oppose the idea of incineration. At the end of the day, maybe that would be our last resort. As I've mentioned with many green groups, we can only minimize environmental impacts. However, at this stage, if the government cannot do a good job in recycling and waste reduction at source, I will oppose. So I would abstain. I cannot vote for or against, so I will just abstain. I hope I can get the support from more people. Can Wuchi-Wai explain his amendment as well? 3 minutes. Thanks, Chairman. The issue of landfills is shared by the entire Hong Kong and not just specific districts. It's an important terminal facility for the whole of Hong Kong, and we have to share the burden, the responsibility. Of course, legislators have political burdens, but the government must also share their burden. They must improve the current policy in order to achieve effective management of waste, and that's the root of the problem. As I said, at this stage, I would oppose to all the three landfill extensions. We mentioned we had the same motion this time last year. In the last 8 months, we haven't seen the government's dedication, and the interdepartmental task force hasn't done anything, hasn't done their homework as of yet. If we vote for or against certain landfill extensions of a certain area because of political concerns, it will be unfair or unreasonable to other districts. So I hope members can take this into account. Until the government has any reasonable measures, we shouldn't have all these landfill extensions. We hope the voting can be done at 12:40. Do members have any comments or objections to this motion? So we have three questions. 3 members. Let's draw the line. Gary Chan, Helena Wong, and Kenneth Chen. 2 minutes each. Gary Chan. I attended both public hearings. We have been talking about trash separation for a number of years. I agree with Kenneth Chan that we must share the burden in terms of waste. Some residents agree and some don't. But a very clear message is that trash is being generated from every household, and we have a shared responsibility. We have landfills in Tuen Mun, Northern District, Sheung O. Apart from landfills, we have other facilities like sewage treatment plants, some so-called unwanted facilities. And after internal discussions, we agree with these terminal facilities, but we also urge the government to do better in waste reduction at source. We agree with the proposal at this stage, but we hope the Secretary must not forget the issues of odor or pollution generated by these unfavorable facilities. We will continue to monitor your work before deciding whether to agree with your future plans. You must facilitate communication and collaboration. Why do we agree with the government at this stage? Because we are aware that these terminal facilities take a long time to construct. Even if we say we want an incinerator, it still takes time. So, Secretary, you have to continue to work on compensation measures, and not just today. Helena Wang.
Thank you, Chairman. And for the general principle that all districts must shoulder their share of responsibility as far as waste is concerned. And of course, legislators have also have to consider the interests of their own constituencies. Mr. Gary Fan has only singled out Southeast anti-landfill. Yes, of course, legislators have to take care of the interests of their own constituencies. However, I would expect a legislator not just to consider the interests of their own constituency. So otherwise, it will be just a very practical vote trading. Of course, we understand Mr. Gary Fan's concern for sand landfill, but what about the residents in Tuen Mun? They will ask, why do we have to swallow all the refuse or waste from the other landfill? And do we have to move another motion objecting the extension of landfills in the NT? There will be no end to the discussion. Yes, I know Zhangguodong residents have a lot of comments on the sand landfill, and the same applies to the residents of Tuen Mun. So I think the administration should take the views of all districts seriously and come to a consensus of all the districts as to whether that there must be such a large-scale extensions, whether there is any betterment measures to make the community more happy. So I oppose Mr. Gary Fan's motion and support Mr. Wu Chi-wai's amendment. Dr. Kenneth Chan, I think that we should hesitate to deal with the 3 landfills and incineration proposals today. And the alliance group or for the alliance for the waste management action groups, well, has also got a lot of suggestions. So I think the government should do something more before we can have a foundation or basis for considering the landfills and incinerator. Now we have 2 motions, one from Mr. Gary Fan, an amendment by Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Now, even if this non-binding motion is dealt with, the government can still decide to introduce the proposals, because it would look ridiculous to the community. This motion is non-binding, is unbinding on the government, and do we need to have 2 rounds of voting? We'll first deal with Mr. Wu Chi-wai's amendment and then deal with Mr. Fan's motion. If Mr. Wu Chi-wai's motion is carried, that is objecting to the extension of the 3 landfills, well, do we support the government's proposal? And I think if Mr. Gary Fan's motion is carried and we vote on Mr. Gary Fan's amendment, then the voting results will just be opposite. So even if Mr. Wu's amendment is passed, we still have to deal with the incinerator. And if Mr. Wu Chi-wai's motion is defeated, then we will have to tackle Mr. Fan Kok-wai's motion. So depending on the outcome of voting on Mr. Gary Fan's motion, we will decide whether we're going to support the proposals. So even after my motion has been dealt with, we still have to vote on the administration's proposal to have 1 incinerator and extension to 3 landfills. I think I still have to extend the meeting by 15 minutes because you can always ask for a division, and then the division, if you want to ring the bell to remind members to come back, do let me know. All right, Mr. Fan, I give you 1 minute. I thank Ms. Helen Wong for joining the meeting, although she was not here earlier. Now, if we want a rational discussion, if we want to split the 2 things, then we should vote on them one by one. Now, if you want everyone to share the responsibility of waste, then you should also split the incinerator and the 3 landfills. The government is bundling up all 4. I am against the government's proposal. I want you to support me. Using your logic, you should not oppose my motion. You should support me. Thank you. Chairman, Dr. Anna Wong, I wanted to stay for the meeting, but I was at another meeting. All right, yes. If we can all attend the full meeting, things will be much easier. Right, we'll deal with Mr. Wu Chi-wai's amendment. Those who are for Mr. Wu's amendment, hands up, please. Please ring the division bell. All right, I expected it. All right, the meeting will be extended by 15 minutes. With 5 minutes, so those who have been sitting here all morning can take the opportunity to go for a walk.
即係投3次票啦。呢度就係成份文件，定抑或係淨係焚化爐咯？其實應該簡單啲，因為其實嗰2個已經有咗個決定咯。應該就係咪淨係話係咪同意將焚化？唔係，佢頭先陳家樂咧，因為佢可能反對呢個就亦都反對即係亦都反對3個或者 就剔走咯。如果過咗呢個就剔晒堆填區，就剩翻焚化爐；過咗呢個咧就剔將軍澳，就剩翻兩堆一燒。有咩過唔到啊？好斯文啊！我都斯文，係嘛？我都特登講嘢細聲啲，都唔知係咪挑人嚟講。這就唔係嘅，其他全部係。咁我哋即係捉住政府回應，書面回應咁多個咯。係。
All right. We are voting on Mr. Wu Chi-wai's amendment. For those in favor, no, we don't have any button to press here. After you have put up your hands, I will read out your names. 3 for Mr. Wu Chi-wai's amendment. Those who are for Mr. Wu Chi-wai's amendment, hands up, please. Gary Fan, Kenneth Chow, Charles Mock, James Toh, Wu Chi-wai, Helena Wong. 6. Those who are against, please put up your hands. Tony C, Lo Wai Kwok, Elizabeth Quat, Chen Han Pen, Christopher Zhong, Gary Chen, Wong Teng Kwang, Stephen Ho, Chen Kim Po. How many are there? 9 against. Abstentions? Albert Chen, 1. So the amendment is not carried. We now deal with Mr. Gary Fan's motion. Those who are for the motion, hands up, please. Gary Fan, Albert Chen, Kenneth Chen. Those who are against, please raise their hands. Tony Z, Lo Wai Kwok, Elizabeth Quat, Chen Han Pen, Gary Chen, Christopher Zhong, Wong Teng Kwang, Stephen Ho, Charles Mock, and Mr. Chen Kim Po. Beg your pardon. Can those who are against the motion hands up, please? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10. 10 votes against. I just read out your names, right? Okay, thank you. Abstentions? Wai, Helena Wong, James To, 3. 3 abstentions. So the motion is not carried. Do you think we need to vote on the administration's funding application to PWSC? Do you think there is a need to vote on this? All right, let's put this item to the vote. All right, since there is such a request, we'll do so. Those who are for submitting the paper to PWSC, hands up, please. Those who are for the government's funding application, we are voting on that. Those who are in favor, please raise your hands. Those who support submitting the paper to PWSC for funding support. Oh, I beg your pardon. I apologize. I must clarify. All right. Those who agree that the administration should go to the PWSC for money. Gary Chan, Christopher Chung, Wang Ting Kwang, Charles Mok, Chen Kimpo. How many are there? 9.
Those who oppose, please raise your hands. Gary Fan, Wai, Helena Wong, Albert Chan, James To, Kenneth Chen, 6. Those who abstain, please raise your hands. No. So the panel approves, passes this proposal of funding application. Thank you for attending. We will adjourn here.